Welcome back to the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. I'm your host, Tony Della Flora. We were just watching a clip from the animated film Cracked by filmmaker Sebastian Brown, who's with us here today to talk a little bit about putting that. It looks like a very complex piece of work, and I want you to talk a little bit about that. But first of all, before we get started, when and where is it playing so people can get out here to see it?
It's playing today at 5 p.m., and it is at the... I don't have the venue in front of me, but
South Broadway Cultural Center. Is
yes.
that right? Okay. All right. We'll mention that again before the end of the show. So tell us what's this story about?
Well, the story's about a village of eggs, and they're all happy to just lay around and take it easy. It's on a planet in a galaxy far, far away. Since I used Industrial Light and Magic as one of the companies to help animate this film. But there is one egg who is determined to see what life is outside of his shell, okay, to break outside of his shell. And so the beginning of the film is his efforts to try and break free from his shell. The concept being, to break out of your shell and to realize your dream, especially for children.
Right.
And so the whole 12-minute short film is his efforts to break out of his shell. And so he only is able to break a point where he can either see or run. But his determination, again, throughout the film, he overcomes a lot of obstacles. And at the end of the film, he does break free from his shell and realizes his dream. And there's a quote from Marianne Radmacher. She's a very popular writer. In fact, she was doing some kind of project, I think, even with Bill Clinton. But she was kind enough to let me use her quote at the end. And I set it up so it could be watched with families, so the adults in the audience would get the quote, with this final leap where Migo is the character's name, breaks free from his shell, and then they could share it as a family, and the parents could reinforce to the child that never give up, never give up. Once you have a dream, keep pursuing until you finally realize that dream. And then I've since talked to adults who've changed careers in midlife and have found the same kind of meaning within that movie, which was very rewarding to me. So
was there anything in particular that inspired that particular incident or your life story?
My own personal life, actually.
Okay.
I was fortunate enough that I was in a business that afforded me the ability to retire when I was 46. And it was in a completely different business. I was in investment real estate, and I had was a shopping center developer the last 13 years of my career. But when I was
that's young, the last thing I would have picked you for.
But when I was young, riding on my banana seat bicycle, it didn't in the middle of the night, singing. I don't want to date myself too badly, but singing tunes in the middle of the night. I play guitar and I write music as well. I had all of these creative ideas, and so I've written a number of children's books. This is the first one I've turned into an animated film. I have other projects too complicated to go into that I started at the same time, and I'm pushing them along. And so this is really me breaking out of my shell as well.
Oh, great. So it's not just a children's story, as you were saying. It appeals to anybody who's starting over again.
It really does.
Yeah. Now, I want to just ask you about the technical end of this. I've learned a little bit about animation the last few years, and it's an intensive work.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to throw out a number, but like a minute of that on the screen might have taken you 6 months to do. I don't know if it's that long, but it takes.
I can speak to the financial aspect of it.
Okay.
It's about $20,000 a minute.
Whoa! And the film's how?
12
minutes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And it took me 3 years to do the project, but I was very, very lucky. I worked with the Academy of Arts in San Francisco.
Okay.
Like I said, I wrote the children's book first. So in working with the Academy of Arts, one of my dear friends worked closely with Disney, so we did a lot of color studies to define the children's book. Mm-hmm. Then we moved on, worked with animators who'd worked on Monsters, Inc., for example, which was one of the most complicated projects that Pixar had done at the time before they were sold to Disney. And that's one of the first movies, if not maybe the only movie, where they were animating hair.
Right.
In the movement of hair.
Right.
So I have animators that had worked on that project. I used industrial light and magic. I don't know if you're familiar with the movie Van Helsing.
I'm familiar with it.
Where Wolverine, the guy, starred in that movie, as well as I can only go by what she was wearing in the vampire movie, but Kate Beckinsale.
Okay.
She also starred in the same movie. But
Right.
Anyway, one of the animators there worked on the same film, and so I had great people doing the animation for the film.
So let me ask you this. I want to hear more about your career. I'm assuming even with money, you don't just walk in and pick up this collection of people, this experience to do this type of work for a short film. I mean, you must have had some history before this that they knew the type of work you did.
Well, they saw the children's book, and they knew my creativity from
Right.
just what they had seen from the products that I had created. Plus, they knew my intelligence.
Okay.
Not just in my previous career, but in working with the Academy of Arts. Not the entire school, but certain people within the Academy of Arts. And I had created not just a children's book, but some projects that have yet to be released.
This type of project or some other?
Well, I have some projects that I'd love to discuss, but they are things that would really impact the industry as we know it in terms of television. Also, I just wrote a 193,000-word novel and 31 original songs where I used a 5-time Grammy winner who wrote If I Could Change the World, sung by Eric Clapton. But the songs are written and performed by the fictional characters in the novel.
Okay.
So I had to create, and this is after I retired, and one of my dear friends, because I tried to do a joint venture with Amazon and Kindle, and they wrote me back saying, you're ahead of your time. We can't do this. Really? And so my friend, my dear friend, and I say that because he's since passed away during the development of this project, said, you're going to have to start your own company after you've retired to do this, because what it involved was the music is written and performed by the fictional characters in the novel.
Right. Okay.
And so in order to do that, you're not going to sell a novel and then sell music and then make the reader go, listen to the music, and it's too much of a distant separation. You have to develop that where the reader can access that music at that time as it is being read.
Right.
And so I had to and am developing the technology So as the reader is reading the book, there is an image that appears, and I'm disclosing this because I have a patent for part of this. Any of you listening?
Great.
Yeah. So as you're reading, I have an image that appears right at the time that the music, and it's not a musical, by the way. It just happens to, like a blues man is a runaway meets a blues man on a train, and the young kid is scared, and the blues man comes back, out of the darkness of this boxcar. And at first, there's this distance between them because the blues man's trying to throw the guy's backpack out of the boxcar as he's trying to hop on. And this 17-year-old is going, "Oh man, what's going on? This is the last boxcar that's open," and he's soaking wet. And he gets on, and he's scared. And then finally, they warm up to each other, and the blues man says, "Well, let me get Rosemary." And the 17-year-old soaking wet, now with a blanket from the African-American man who is now in the light, because before the 17-year-old was the only one getting the light flashing on him from the door that's halfway open. He said, "Let me get Rosemary." And the 17-year-old says, "Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know your wife was back there." And the man says, no, Rosemary ain't my wife. Rosemary's my guitar." And so he pulls out his guitar, and the blues man's name is Tin Can Willie, and he starts to, there's this image that you see at that particular point in the novel, and it's not one that will, change your imagination of what you've already created. Because that's the one thing people always say, the book is better than the movie. And I did not want to distort that imagination. Right. And so you can simply click on that image, and then you will hear 5-time Grammy winner who was playing my blues man start to pluck that Rosemary. And you'll hear the train tracks keeping beat with his foot as it's stomping on the boxcar. And he'll play, Rosemary's House, which he and I co-wrote. And that song should suck you deeper into that scene. Right. And so that's the purpose of that. I'm sorry if I elaborated too long, but that's the purpose.
Well, I'm interested. I want to come back to that in just a second. I want to take another chance to mention when Cracked is going to be playing.
Okay. Again, it's 5 o'clock today.
At the South Broadway Cultural Center, right?
Yes, it is.
And I think tickets are $10 typically. So we will hopefully get some people out for that. So one more quick question. So you're not just doing animation. You're in every kind of media.
I am. Okay. Very much so, yeah.
Okay. Well, Sebastian, thank you for being with us today. We're again at the Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. This is Director Sebastian, director, filmmaker, musician, everything. Sebastian Brown, his animated film Cracked will be showing at the South Broadway Cultural Center at 5:30.
Yeah. And don't forget, I am doing an children's book app that will have clips of this.
Okay, great. All right, very good. Well, Sebastian, thanks very much for being with us today. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much for having me.